Hello and welcome to the LUPC and SUPC Conference. This is the Evolving Campus, an update on sector estates activity.
Hello, I'm Julie Gooch. I'm the Senior Contracts Manager at LUPC, looking after the Estates and Facilities Management category.
And I'm Terence Smith. I am the Assistant Category Manager at SUPC, also looking after the Estates category.
So I'm going to talk about some market trends and insights. Well, what a year it's been. We have seen some unprecedented challenges and uncertainty, what with the COVID-19 pandemic through to the Brexit negotiations. The events of the last year has changed how we live and work, and this will continue over the next year and beyond. Facilities managers have always played a key role in ensuring that our buildings are operating to allow us to function and ensure our well-being and our safety. However, the challenges FM have been faced with has raised their profile and has shown how key their role is. So I'm conscious that there's a wider audience listening to this presentation. So I'm going to add that the content is covering a broad overview of the market and insights of the facilities management sector. So next, I'm going to cover some of the challenges. Everyone has been faced with challenges, but some of the challenges we have seen in the FM sector is that there have been a need for changes to flexible working strategies because of the global pandemic. Employees have been exposed to the well-being benefits of working from home or choosing where they work, which presents many challenges for facilities management professionals when optimising the workspace, supporting productivity and managing well-being goals. Buildings have been largely empty through the lockdowns, but facility managers have been working hard to keep them safe, clean and still functioning. With the rollout of the vaccination and as COVID restrictions are lifted, staff and students will be returning to the buildings, but we don't yet know how this will look. Facilities managers will be considering how to optimise their space, ensure facilities are available for hygiene and generally keeping its occupants secure and safe. There's also been a need to cut costs with reductions in budgets. This could create additional problems further down the line, for example, an increase in backlog maintenance. A key question will be around how to implement solutions that reduce costs without impacting quality, service levels or safety standards. So I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about the market. There's been a bit mixed picture over the last 12 months. FM surveys have indicated that there has been a decline in the number of contracts awarded. However, some FM sectors, such as cleaning and security, have experienced the greatest demand due to the pandemic. FM services, such as reception and catering, have been negatively impacted as buildings have closed down. Unfortunately, none of us can predict the future, but looking forward over the next 12 months, there is generally a more positive outlook in the FM industry, with service providers adapting and offering greater value and building on lessons over the last year. To support this positive outlook, the Bank of England has recently said that the UK economy is set to expand the fastest since World War II as restrictions are lifted. So some of the big topics going forward. So one of the main topics is technology. There is an increased need for IoT, the Internet of Things. Although facilities teams have been using technology for years, the connected device usage is growing. If there's one thing COVID-19 brought to the forefront, it's remote monitoring, which enables facilities teams to manage building and minimal physical contact. Sensor technology has has almost endless applications in FM. It's amazing how many sensors are out there measuring occupancy levels, temperature, or air quality. If you haven't already got the technology set up, is this something that you are looking to implement? This trend is likely to evolve as key players fine-tune their IoT devices to improve efficiency and accuracy, enabling us to run as efficiently, safely, and cost-effectively as possible. Another of the key topics is that sustainability, and this has been a big topic for some time, but has grown increasingly more important. It is recognised that we can and should do more. I'm going to run through what is felt as some of the most important aspects in developing sustainable practices. So we've got health and well-being. Well-being has become increasingly important area for sustainability for facilities management professionals, even before the coronavirus outbreak. Organisations have actively invested in well-being initiatives, particularly around mental health and enhanced working practices, and are actively measuring it in some way. It may not be a surprise that mental health is expected to be the biggest area of focus for well-being in the next 12 months. Net zero. With the government committing the UK to net zero carbon emissions by 2050, a recent press release from the government setting a new target to reduce emissions by 78% by 2035, and many organisations setting their own targets, facilities managers have a critical role to play assessing needs, challenges and opportunities, defining the right strategy and tactics, and managing implementation for successful outcomes. Social value. Social value is understood to be highly significant in FM delivery, but there are challenges over exactly what it covers and how to measure it. Understanding and reporting on social value is critical, enabling us to put a value to our social, environmental and economic impacts aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The UK UPC has developed a set of questions and model answers that relate to these goals, which are available on the website. So the last area I'm going to talk about is modern slavery. This is another key issue. It is shocking to see that the number of people identified as victims of modern slavery has been rising year on year. The UK construction and facilities management sector has been regularly highlighted in the UK's anti-slavery by the UK's anti-slavery commissioner for its high modern slavery risk. The Modern Slavery Act requires commercial organisations with a global turnover of at least 36 million to produce a slavery and human trafficking statement for each financial year. Due to the level of risk associated with the supply to some of the facilities management categories, such as cleaning, we are pushing the importance for all our suppliers in the high risk categories to produce a statement regardless of the level of turnover to show their commitment. We provide support and advice to our suppliers to help them achieve that, and guidance is available on our website. So we now go to Taryn.
Thank you, Julie. So the impact of COVID-19. PPE, there continues to be a large demand for personal protective equipment, particularly from the healthcare sector as a consequence of the pandemic. Government figures have shown that between February of last year and January of this year, nearly 8 billion PPE items have been distributed by the Department of Health and Social Care for use in England alone. And according to the Department of Health and Social Care, in May of last year, the UK government significantly increased domestic production, with various companies having signed contracts to manufacture over 2 billion items of PPE in the UK, including face masks, visors, gowns and aprons. This vast increase in demand for PPE has shown the importance of having multiple supplies to choose from in order to avoid possible product shortages, and the importance of having sufficient working capital and inventory to fulfil those orders. As many of you will be aware, the UK Universities Purchasing Consortia, which includes both LUPC and SUPC, were involved in initiatives last year to aggregate member PPE demand with a view to securing PPE stock and leveraging this level of demand to secure advantageous pricing for our institutions, which could then be called off. And following these initiatives, APUC and CPC framework agreements continue to be the go-to sector resources for these types of equipment, with regular stock and lead time updates being sent out to our members. We also have capital estates projects and the implications around that. So considering where we are, it could be argued that universities have never faced a more challenging future going forward with regards to their revenue streams. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has projected that losses could range anywhere between 3 billion and 19 billion, or between 7.5% and nearly half of the sector's overall income in 1 year. We've seen institutions having to balance the need to cut costs while simultaneously protecting existing jobs, investing in additional IT infrastructure to support home working and online learning, as well as in large costs around signage and increased cleaning, whilst these commercial revenues have declined sharply. Within the current context, it's unsurprising to hear that capital projects are being reviewed with the possibility of delaying, changing, or even stopping these altogether, given the uncertainty faced by institutions. There, of course, exists the requirement for universities to reduce costs, and cancelling or postponing estates capital projects will be seen as a possible way of doing that. UK universities, who are the representative association for universities across the country, in their published review of the impact of COVID on the sector, have stated that universities recognise that even with government investment, significant action to reduce costs is necessary and are already making efforts to reduce costs as much as possible. For example, through tight controls on procurement, delaying capital projects and freezing recruitment. And whilst there are numerous cases of institutions having to suspend their capital projects, depending on whether they're considered to be business critical or not, some have in fact expanded their programs in response to the pandemic with the addition of modular units to support things such as the NHS with Nightingale hospitals, or even additional lab space for vaccine research and trials. So whilst some of the data may paint a fairly gloomy picture of the situation currently, we can perhaps take heart from the idea that being forced into making changes affords us the ability to forge new and positive ways of working going forward. For example, with many universities declaring climate emergencies and committing to cut emissions, a restructure in how we approach capital project spending and reusing and flexing space may allow for those targets to be attained even earlier than anticipated. So flexible learning and flexible spaces, with the emergence of blended and online learning, this has expedited the need for physically flexible spaces, with courses potentially no longer being full-time campus-based, but possibly operating on demand, or perhaps only requiring students to be on campus for a short period of time throughout the academic year. There will, of course, be additional requirements for IT infrastructure investment, given the inevitable shift to home working and classes now being delivered online. And within the recent climate, COVID-safe requirements have compelled institutions to provide spaces that have allowed students to return to the campus environment whilst keeping them socially distanced and safe. However, it is likely that there will exist a need to adapt and become agile with long-term options to respond to any future pandemic that requires social distancing measures. And it may well be that the days of packed lecture halls accommodating hundreds of people are behind us, and the focus going forward will instead be on flexible space that can be adjusted to suit the needs of the particular course and its requirements. The application of things such as movable walls and partitioning systems can be used to quickly divide classrooms, or to extend spaces to allow for teaching to be delivered to socially distant students, depending on the numbers and restrictions of the time. Whereas in the past, partitioning may have been considered problematic due to the clunky technology of the age, this has now moved on dramatically. And as of now, flexible learning spaces can be transformed with minimal time and effort using things such as ceiling tracks, which can be manipulated as often as required throughout the day. And there's also the fact that this technology now allows these movable partitions to close with acoustic rubber seals, meaning a creative, noisy and interactive class can take place next door to a quiet lecture theatre without any disruption at all. And then finally, catering facilities and the impact felt there. So university catering functions have, much like the rest of the hospitality sector, bore the brunt of the pandemic's negative consequences. And with students returning home, halls of residence left empty, there's been no requirement nor feasibility for catering facilities on campus. Reopening these facilities will be key in allowing universities to begin rebuilding revenues lost from COVID-19. But what will be interesting is what this new operation will look like in a post-pandemic world where the focus is very much on safety. There's also, as I mentioned earlier, a need to be dynamic and able to respond to any future pandemic situation that could once again require us to social distance. And it's likely that technology will be the answer to this, with online ordering from tables via a terminal or app feature that will facilitate this process without the need to queue or physically exchange cash with another individual, and for these designated spaces to manage their capacity. We may end up seeing universities operating a click and collect or even delivery service to allow for student flexibility around their timetables and avoiding previous issues such as busy periods, queues, much in the same way as external companies like Just Eat and Deliveroo. The implementation of these technologies may involve further spending for universities, but with most HE students being from Generation Z, the adoption of these technologies shouldn't in any way prove problematic, and in fact may align with how they access these kinds of services outside a campus. This technology can also support in preparation for Natasha's law, which outlines caterers' needs to consider the accurate labelling and identification of allergens in their food. This legislation is due to come into effect in October, and by allowing users to register a profile which includes their food intolerances, this can allow for prompts to be built into the technology that warns or even prevents individuals from being able to complete orders for specific dishes based on their risk profile. So in summary, it's been a bit of a mixed picture for the estates and FM category, with the obvious negative impacts for areas such as catering, who've been largely prevented from operating, to those, as Julie mentioned earlier, in the cleaning and security spaces, who've seen demand for their services increase dramatically in response to the pandemic. However, overall, the successful vaccination rollout, coupled with spaces opening up again in June, we hope to see as close a return to normal as possible, and for that degree of uncertainty to help the estate begin to recover. So, new framework agreements. We have a number of these that have been let within the sector over the past 6 months, and the majority of these have actually had direct SUPC and LUPC participation within the tender working party and evaluation elements of these agreements. So links to the respective frameworks will be included in the resources section of the presentation for ease of access. So the first one we have is the APUC Doors Maintenance, Repair and Installation Services. This agreement was let just prior to the end of last year and is divided into 7 geographical lots with 12 suppliers awarded, and will run for a period of 2 years with the option to extend a further 2 years. We also have the NEUPC Removals and Relocation Agreement. This was awarded in February and is the retender of the previous iteration and will run for 4 years through to 2025. It's structured into 2 lots, lot 1 being for smaller regional contracts, which is further subdivided into 13 regions, and lot 2, which is a national lot for larger projects. There are 5 suppliers operating on the framework, which allows for 4 different types of call-off, including further competition, ranked award, desktop exercise, and competitive quotation. We also have the NEUPC Lifts Consultancy, Maintenance, Refurbishment and Associated Installation Services Agreement. So this was let at the beginning of this month in May and is divided into 2 separate lots, the first being lift installation, maintenance and refurbishment, of which there are 5 awarded suppliers, and the other being lift consultancy services. This second lot is currently being delayed whilst NEUPC work through further details, but is anticipated to go live soon. We also have the NWPC Washroom Services Agreement, which commenced again at the beginning of this month. This is divided into 14 lots in total, with 13 covering regional parts of the UK, and the final 14th lot covering period dignity solutions, with a total of 6 suppliers operating across the agreement. And then the final framework is NWPC's White Goods. This is due to be awarded due to commence in June of this year, and currently has 2 lots, the first being for Great Britain and British Isles, and the second for Northern Ireland. Julie.
So there are some tenders in progress. LUPC have recently published an Estates and Facilities Management Services Agreement. This is a regional agreement covering LUPC members and SUPC members in the South East. This agreement incorporates our three existing agreements for manned security, cleaning services and estates maintenance and minor works. The lots included on this agreement cover estates maintenance and minor works one-stop shop, M&E planned and reactive maintenance. There's 2 lots for minor works, one M&E minor works and the other is general minor works. We've got lots for security services, cleaning services, and finally a bundled lot which covers all 3 of those services provided by one provider. LUPC has taken the opportunity to incorporate the new NEC facilities management contract into the agreement for call-offs. And it is the first model form of contract designed specifically for the FM sector. This contract provides clear, robust and flexible methods for driving achievements of the agreed service level and is aimed to provide more collaborative working with our suppliers. We're aiming to launch this agreement in October this year. Catering consultancy agreement is due to be renewed later this year and is currently under review. Water quality management. This agreement is being led by APUC and went out to tender on the 20th of April. This agreement consists of 7 lots, 1 to 5 are split regionally and cover risk assessment services. Lot 6 is UK nationwide, covering water quality treatment services, including sampling and treatment of Legionella, reporting and training. Lot 7 is also a UK nationwide lot, which is a one-stop shop for water quality management services, incorporating risk assessment, sampling and water quality treatment services. APUC aim to go live with this agreement at the beginning of August. So we're now onto our resources side. So our last slide, we have provided some useful links covering areas that we've discussed in our presentation, including links to the new agreements. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you found this presentation helpful. We'll both be around to answer your questions. Please provide any questions in the Q&A on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.